The girl in the dust. The sun was burning above the dry alien land. Heat waves danced over the broken roads. A human trader named Jake walked through the dusty village of Tharka, far away from any Earth colony. His boots kicked sand with every step. He had come to trade spare parts for food, but what he saw next made him stop. There, lying in the middle of the street, was a small alien girl. Her skin was pale blue, covered in bruises and dirt. Her legs were twisted and scraped. She wasn't walking. She was crawling, pulling herself forward with weak hands. Her eyes were big and filled with fear, but no one stopped. Aliens walked past her like she didn't exist. Jake stared in shock. She looked no older than 6. Thin, bones visible through skin. Her lips were dry and her fingers shook as she dragged her small body across the dirt. "Hey!" Jake called out to a nearby merchant. "What's going on? That kid needs help." The alien merchant didn't even glance at the girl. "Ignore her," he muttered. "Cursed child. Not your problem, human." Jake knelt beside the girl. She flinched but didn't move away. Her hands clutched at the ground like she was afraid he might kick her. Slowly, carefully, Jake reached into his pack and pulled out a water bottle. "Here," he said softly, holding it out. The girl stared at it like she'd never seen water before. Then, with trembling hands, she took the bottle and drank fast. Too fast. Some water spilled down her chin. She coughed and gasped but didn't stop. Jake felt something twist in his chest. "What's your name?" he asked. The girl looked up at him. Her voice was like a whisper in the wind. "Lena." "Where's your family, Lena?" Her lips quivered. She didn't answer. He looked around again. No one cared. Some people even glared at him for stopping. "She's cursed," an old alien woman muttered as she passed. "Stay away." Jake ignored them. He gently picked Lena up in his arms. She was light as a feather, too light. She didn't resist. She just rested her head against his chest, like she had no strength left to fight. He walked toward his small camp on the edge of the village, holding her like she was the most fragile thing in the galaxy. When he reached his tent, he laid her down on a soft blanket. He opened his med kit and looked at her legs. They were badly broken. Not fresh wounds, old injuries that hadn't healed right. Her knees were swollen, her ankles twisted at the wrong angle. Someone had hurt her and left her like this. Jake's jaw tightened. "Did someone do this to you?" he asked gently. Lena turned her head away, silent. He gave her some soft food. She ate it slowly, like she was afraid it would be taken away. That night, as she slept in his tent, Jake sat outside by the fire, staring at the stars. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Why would anyone hurt a child like that? The next morning, Jake went into the village to ask questions. He spoke to shopkeepers, guards, even the local elder. Each time, the answer was the same. "She's cursed. She brings death. She should not be alive." No one explained why. Jake returned to his camp with more questions than answers. Lena was awake now. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. Jake helped her carefully. "Thank you," she said, in a soft voice. "You don't belong in the dirt, Lena," Jake said. "You're just a child. Someone should have protected you." She looked up at him with teary eyes. "You're different." "Why?" Jake gave a small smile. "Because I'm human, and humans don't leave kids to die." But as the sun set again, a strange feeling crept over him. Eyes were watching. He could sense them beyond the rocks. Something told him this wasn't over. Not yet. The refusal Jake woke up to the sound of scratching. It wasn't loud, but it was close. He grabbed his pulse torch and stepped out of the tent. The desert wind blew softly. Stars shimmered above, but the sound had stopped. He looked around the rocks and dry bushes near his camp. Nothing. Then he turned back and froze. A claw mark was drawn on the side of his tent. Fresh. deep. It wasn't there before. He rushed inside. Lena was still sleeping, curled in a tight ball. Her hand held onto a piece of his shirt like she was scared he'd vanish. Jake lowered his weapon and sat beside her. He didn't sleep again that night. By morning, Jake made a choice. He walked straight into the village, carrying Lena in his arms. She was awake now but silent. People stopped what they were doing. Whispers followed him. Look, he brought her here. He's touching the cursed one. Foolish human. Jake stopped at the center of the village near the trading station. He stood tall, even as people backed away from him. I want answers, he said loud enough for all to hear. This child is hurt, starving, broken, and you all pretend she doesn't exist. Why? No one answered. A tall alien man stepped forward. His skin was dull gray, and his robes carried symbols of leadership. He was the village elder. Human, the elder said coldly. You do not know what you carry. She's a child, Jake said. A child with broken legs. She is a curse, the elder snapped. Born of shame. Her father was a traitor. Her mother vanished. And her stepmother wanted her gone. That child should not have survived. Jake looked down at Lena. Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry. She never cried. She survived, Jake said, his voice sharp. And that makes her strong, not cursed. She has no place here, the elder said. Put her down. Walk away. Jake shook his head. I'm not leaving her behind. There was a long silence. Then the elder's tone grew cold. Then you are no longer welcome here, human. Jake felt eyes shift toward him. Alien guards had appeared on rooftops and corners. Their hands touched their weapons. He turned and walked away, holding Lena tighter. Back at camp, Jake sat by the fire with her. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded. Do you want to tell me anything? Lena stared at the flames. Then she whispered, They call me cursed, because I didn't die. Jake frowned. What do you mean? They took me to the top of the canyon. My stepmother said, Jump or I'll push you. I begged, I screamed. Jake leaned closer, listening. She pushed me anyway. A long pause. I didn't die. I landed hard. My legs broke. I screamed, but no one came. I crawled until I reached the edge of the village. Jake's hand curled into a fist. She told them I ran away, Lena said. And no one cared. Jake looked at her. I care. She blinked fast, her eyes shiny. Why? Because I see you. That night, while Jake slept beside the fire, a sharp noise woke him. He turned and saw a figure running away from the tent. He jumped up, torch in hand, and ran after it. The figure was fast, cloaked, but Jake chased hard. They turned into the rocks. For a moment, Jake thought he lost them. Then, a blast of heat came from the left. A weapon fired. It missed him by inches. Jake rolled, ducked, and threw a stun flare. It hit the edge of the rocks, and the attacker screamed, blinded. They fell. Jake pulled back the hood. It was one of the village guards. Jake stared at him. Why try to kill a child in her sleep? She was meant to die, the guard hissed. She was supposed to disappear. Jake's eyes burned with fury. He stood and left the guard behind in the sand, stunned and shaking. Back at the tent, Lena was awake, scared. Jake sat beside her and gently touched her hand. I won't let them touch you again. She looked up at him. You could leave me. I won't. Even if they hate you? Jake smiled sadly. Then let them hate me. Suddenly her small arms reached out and she hugged him. It was the first time she had ever done that. Jake held her close, looking into the dark desert sky. He had made his choice. But he also knew this. They would come for her again, and next time, they wouldn't miss. The hidden truth the next morning, Jake sat beside Lena holding a small scanner. The device blinked with red lights as he passed it over her legs. He had never treated alien children before, but he had seen battlefield injuries, and her legs, looked worse than any war wound he had seen. "This should have killed you," he whispered. Lena didn't speak. She just stared at the dirt in silence. Jake looked into her eyes. "Lena, I need to know something. Did someone break your legs after the fall?" She hesitated. Then she nodded. Jake's hands froze. "Who?" he asked quietly. Lena hugged her arms. "After I fell, I couldn't move. I was still breathing. The woman came down with others," she said. "She's alive? Still alive?" Then she told them to stomp on my legs. Jake couldn't breathe for a moment. A sharp pain filled his chest. They hadn't just left her. They made sure she'd suffer. "Why would they do that to a child?" he asked. Lena said nothing. But Jake had a guess now. He walked outside and opened his old Earthcom link. It's still connected to orbiting archives. He typed a name. Lena of Tharka. A few records appeared. One of them showed her birth status. His eyes widened. Lena's father was once a royal guard captain, loyal to a rebel queen. That explained everything. The war ended years ago, but the victors had erased every trace of the old queen's supporters, including their families. That meant Lena was the last child of a traitor bloodline. Jake returned to the tent. "Lena, your father. He wasn't a bad man, was he?" Lena's eyes filled with tears. "He used to carry me on his shoulders. He said I was his star. One night he didn't come home. They said he died. Then everything changed. My mother cried every night, then she vanished too. And the woman came." Jake gently placed a blanket around her. "That woman, your stepmother?" Lena nodded. "She hated me." Jake stared into the fire. Now he understood. This wasn't just cruelty. It was erasure. The village had been ordered to treat Lena as if she never existed. But why now? Why try to kill her again after all these years? That night, Jake dug quietly in the sand near the rocks where the village ended. He had remembered something odd. The guard who tried to kill Lena said something strange. She was meant to disappear. Why say that unless someone had tried before? After some digging, his hand hit something hard. He cleared the sand and found a stone slab with a name etched faintly on it. Lena of House Kelvar. A grave. Jake's heart stopped. This was a fake grave. Someone had already declared her dead. He opened the slab. It was empty. They had buried her memory, but not her body. If she lived, and if someone outside the village ever found her, the truth about what happened during the rebellion might rise again. And that meant someone powerful still wanted her dead. Jake returned to the tent, his heart racing. "Lena," he said softly, waking her. "Do you remember if your father had any symbol? Anything he gave you?" She blinked sleepily, then nodded. "A pendant, but the woman took it." "What did it look like?" "It had a black star on a silver circle." Jake froze. That was the lost symbol of the Kelvar line. If she still had it, she could prove who she was, and the entire rebel story could come back to light. Suddenly, the tent flap flew open. Jake grabbed his torch, but froze when he saw who entered. It was a young alien woman dressed in travel gear. Her eyes were sharp. "I'm not here to fight," she said quickly. "I came because I heard what you did." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" She looked at Lena and gave a small bow. "My name is Sarah. I was a child when the rebellion ended. Lena's father saved my village. He protected us. And now, I've come to protect his daughter." Lena stared at her. "You know my father?" "Yes," Sarah said. "And they lied about everything." Jake let out a slow breath. This was bigger than he imagined. The villagers weren't just hiding a child. They were hiding history. And Lena, this little broken girl, might be the key to exposing all of it. "The healing begins." Lena woke up to the sound of tools clicking and metal tapping. She turned her head slowly and saw Jake sitting cross-legged near the fire, surrounded by strange-looking parts from his spaceship. Wires, screws, and glowing pieces lay scattered across the ground. He looked tired, but focused. Sarah, the alien woman who came the night before, stood guard at the tent's edge. Her eyes moved constantly, watching the desert. "Morning," Jake said gently without looking up. "Sleep okay?" Lena nodded, though her legs still throbbed with pain. He smiled. "Good, because today, we start something new." Jake had taken old stabilizers from his landing gear and reshaped them. He added soft padding, simple joints, and energy coils from his toolkit. They didn't look perfect, but they were something incredible. Leg braces. For Lena. She stared as he held them up. "I can't walk," she whispered. "You couldn't," he said softly. "But maybe now, you can try." It took 3 hours just to fit them properly. Lena winced and shook, but Jake was patient, never angry. He gently lifted her, adjusted the straps, and supported her trembling body. Her knees wobbled. Her hands gripped his arms tightly. Her feet touched the ground, both of them, for the first time in years. "Take one step," Jake said. Lena looked at him, then she tried. Her left foot moved forward, but she fell into his chest right after. Jake laughed. "That counts." Lena blinked in surprise, then she giggled. It was the first time she had laughed. Sarah watched silently, arms crossed. "She's going to walk," Jake said proudly. Sarah nodded, but her voice was serious. "They'll hear of this. The village. The elders. They'll know she didn't just survive, she's healing." Jake looked at her. "Then let them come. We won't run." Sarah hesitated. "There's more, Jake. I heard talk in the market. The high order in the capital found out about the failed grave. Someone leaked it. They sent a message to Tharka. A team is coming." Jake's face turned hard. "To kill her?" "Yes," Sarah said. "Within days." Jake knelt by Lena again. She sat with her new braces, watching a beetle crawl across a rock. "We don't have much time," he said. "I'm not afraid," she said quietly. He smiled. "You're braver than me." "No," she replied, looking up at him. "You stayed." Jake's chest tightened again. There was something in her voice, something new. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was fighting. The next morning, Jake and Sarah built a walking rail from scrap pipes outside the tent. Lena practiced. She fell again, and again. But each time she stood back up. Jake watched every step like it was a miracle, and it was. This wasn't just about movement, it was about freedom. Each inch forward said, "I am not broken," but their peace was short. On the third day, just before sunset, Sarah returned from her patrol with urgency in her voice. "They've arrived. A black transport, marked with high-order sigils. 2 soldiers, 1 man in white robes. An inquisitor." Jake cursed, under his breath. "That's bad." "They're going to the village first," she said, "but they'll come here soon." Jake turned to Lena. "Can you walk?" She nodded. "Not fast." "Then we don't run." He pulled his old earth pistol from a hidden box beneath the sand. It was dusty but loaded. Sarah pulled out 2 energy blades and handed one to Jake. He raised an eyebrow. "I don't know how to use this. Just point it and swing." That night, Jake sat beside Lena one last time. He gave her a small communicator, a panic button. "If anything happens, press this. It calls my ship." "You're leaving?" she asked, voice shaking. "No," he said. "I'm standing outside to protect you." Lena clutched the button. "You're not like the others." Jake smiled. "Neither are you." Then he stood, blaster in one hand, blade on his belt, and waited for the enemy to come. Inside the tent, Lena sat in silence. Then slowly, she stood up. Her legs shook, but she took one step, then another. She didn't want to hide anymore. She would face them too. No more crawling, no more silence. The bargain, the black ship landed with a low hum, stirring dust into the evening air. Villagers of Tharka stepped back as 3 figures emerged, 2 armored soldiers and a tall alien in white robes. His eyes were silver, and his face cold like stone. He was a high-order inquisitor. The elder of the village bowed deeply. "You claimed the girl was gone," the inquisitor said. Yet a report came. A human touched her, fed her, gave her shelter. The elder's voice trembled. "The report is false. She was left to die. We have no—" "She is not dead." The inquisitor cut him off. "And now, your village is in violation of the peace treaty." The elder shook. "Please, we tried—" "Silence," the inquisitor said. "You failed to erase her. We'll clean your mess." He turned to his guards. "Bring me the girl." Outside Jake's tent, Sarah watched through binoculars from the rocks. "They're coming," she whispered. "3 riders, fast, straight here." Jake stood ready, pistol in one hand, blade on his back. He looked at Lena. "Stay hidden." But she shook her head. "No, I want to see them. I want them to see me stand." Jake opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. She had come too far to hide now. He nodded slowly. "Then stand with me." The soldiers arrived minutes later, dust trailing behind them. They stepped down from their hover bikes, weapons drawn. Jake raised his gun calmly. "That's close enough." The inquisitor stepped forward. "So, the human rebel. I expected a savage, not a traitor in broken armor." Jake smiled thinly. "And I expected a judge, not a coward who sends soldiers after children." The inquisitor's eyes narrowed. "You dare insult the high order?" Jake tilted his head. "You dare call a child a threat?" Lena stepped out from the tent slowly, her leg braces shining in the sunset. Her body shook, but she stood tall. The inquisitor froze. "You should not exist," he said quietly. "But I do," Lena answered. A strange silence followed. Even the guards didn't move. Then the inquisitor gave a small, cruel smile. "No one here can stop me from erasing you." Jake stepped forward. "I challenge you," the inquisitor blinked. "What?" "I challenge you to an honor bargain," Jake said loudly. Behind him, Sarah's eyes widened. The honor bargain was an ancient alien law, rare, nearly forgotten, but still binding on all who followed the old ways. "You dare invoke that right?" The inquisitor laughed. "I do," Jake replied. "You want to erase her? You'll have to win fairly. If I lose, you take us both. If I win, you leave her alone forever." The soldiers looked at their leader, unsure. The inquisitor's smile faded. "You're human. The right wasn't meant for your kind. But your laws say any soul may invoke it in the defense of the innocent. Is that not right?" The inquisitor clenched his jaw. He had no choice. If he refused, word would spread. The order's name would be shamed. "Very well," he said at last. "We accept. Tomorrow, at dawn. Prepare to lose." That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She sat beside Jake, staring at the stars. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "You're risking your life." Jake smiled. "You risked yours every day. Crawling through dust, staying alive when no one helped. I'm just catching up." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're not my father, but you feel like home." Jake didn't speak. He just put a hand gently over hers. "You'll be okay," he said. "No," she whispered. "We will." Far away, the inquisitor sharpened his blade, eyes glowing with quiet rage. He had never lost a duel, but tomorrow, he would fight a human who stood for something dangerous. Hope. The trial of worth. The sky was still dark when Jake stepped into the stone arena just outside the village. It was ancient, half buried by sand and time, but it still held power. Sarah stood beside him, silent. Lena sat nearby, her leg braces locked into the ground, watching with wide eyes. She had never seen this place before. She had never seen a man fight for her life. Not until now. The High Order Inquisitor stood across the arena. He wore a ceremonial blade on his hip and strange gold armor that shimmered like heat. "Remember the terms?" the elder of the village announced, standing between them. "This is a trial of worth. Both sides will face 3 tests. Only one will walk away free." Jake nodded. "Understood." The Inquisitor only smirked. Without warning, 2 guards stepped forward and held out glowing cuffs. Jake looked confused. "They go on your wrists," one guard said. "You wear them, you feel her pain." Jake didn't hesitate. He snapped the cuffs on. A sharp jolt went through his arms, and then burning fire raced down to his legs. His knees buckled. He cried out. Lena gasped. "Jake!" He collapsed to one knee, sweat already pouring down his face. His legs felt like they were shattering, just like hers had once. This was what she had felt, crawling through sand, begging for help, and no one came, except now. Someone was choosing to feel it for her. The guards watched him tremble, but he didn't fall. He stood up again, legs shaking, eyes steady. The elder turned to the Inquisitor. "Your turn," the Inquisitor sneered. "I decline. Her pain is not mine." There was a murmur from the crowd. The elder looked disappointed. First point goes to the human. Next, a glowing orb was placed between them. A memory reader. It would show the truest moment from their hearts, without lies. "Touch the orb," the elder said. Jake stepped forward and placed his hand on it. The orb lit up, flashing bright. A scene appeared above the arena, shimmering in light. It showed Jake on a battlefield, injured, bleeding, carrying a wounded alien child through fire. Soldiers shouted for him to retreat, but he ran into the flames again, not once, not twice, but 3 times. He had saved the enemy's children, because they were children. Gasps echoed across the arena. Jake stepped back. Quiet. The Inquisitor walked forward, lips tight, and touched the orb. A new image appeared. He stood before a small crying girl, Lena. Her hands were outstretched. He turned his back and walked away. The image froze on her tears. No one made a sound. Even the elder looked shaken. Second point, to the human. The sun had now fully risen. The arena grew hot. The last challenge began. Jake picked up a simple blade, balanced and light. The Inquisitor unsheathed his long ceremonial sword. They stepped into the ring. Lena held her breath. The first strike came fast. The Inquisitor was strong and skilled, moving like lightning. Jake blocked once, twice, but a third swing knocked him down. Blood stained his side, but he got up. Again, and again. Every hit, every fall, he rose. Not because he was stronger, but because she was watching. Because someone had to show her, you are worth fighting for. Finally, the Inquisitor raised his sword for a final blow, but Jake didn't move to defend. He dropped his blade and stepped between the Inquisitor and Lena. "I won't fight you anymore," Jake said, bleeding. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me first." The Inquisitor froze. The crowd stared. The elder stepped forward. Enough. The Inquisitor's blade trembled in the air. He looked into Jake's eyes and saw no fear, only love and unbreakable will. With a growl, the Inquisitor lowered his weapon. He turned away. The elder raised his hands. "The trial is over. The human has won. The girl is free." Lena burst into tears. She tried to stand, to run, but her legs failed. Still, she dragged herself forward. Jake dropped to one knee and caught her in his arms. "You did it," she cried. "No," he whispered, smiling, through pain. "We did. A second chance." The sun was setting behind the red cliffs of Tharka. Golden light spilled over the dusty land, bathing everything in warmth. But the warmth in Lena's chest came from something else. She was finally free. The High Order Inquisitor had left, silently, defeated, humiliated. The village watched as the girl they once left in the dirt now stood, not just alive, but loved. Jake sat in the sand, his side bandaged, his breath slow. He had fought harder than he ever had. Not for treasure, not for pride, but for a little alien girl who never gave up. Lena walked carefully toward him, her leg braces making soft clicks against the stone. Each step still hurt, but she didn't care because each step was hers. She sat beside him and took his hand. "You didn't give up on me," she said softly. Jake smiled, tired but proud. "And you didn't give up on yourself." She looked around. "They're all watching." "They should," he said. "They ignored you for years. Let them see what you became." Some villagers stood frozen. Others hung their heads in guilt. A few looked ready to cry. Later that evening, the village elder approached their camp. His voice shook with shame. "We were wrong," he said to Lena. "You were never cursed. We were." Lena said nothing at first. Then she whispered, "I don't need your sorry words." The elder looked hurt. "But," she continued, "I do need one thing." He leaned forward. "Build a shelter," she said. "Not for me. For every child like me. For the ones you forgot. The ones you called broken." The elder lowered his head. "It will be done." 2 days passed. Jake repaired his ship, but didn't leave. He and Sarah built things together. Rails, stairs, ramps, and a new home on the hilltop away from the village, but still close enough for Lena to see the stars every night. Lena spent her time learning, reading, healing, and walking. More and more every day. One morning she took 10 steps without holding anything. Jake watched from behind, silent. When she turned around, he had tears in his eyes. "You did it," he whispered. She nodded, proud. "You don't need me now," he said softly. She looked at him, then smiled. "I do." That night, Lena sat under the stars beside Jake. "I used to hate the sky," she said, "because I always had to look up from the ground." Jake glanced at her. "But now I like it," she said, "because I stand under it. And you're here too." He smiled. "You're not cursed, Lena. You're a miracle." She looked down at her hands. "Do you think my father would be proud?" Jake placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I think he's looking down right now, and I think he's smiling." She wiped her eyes. "Can I call you something?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Sure. What is it?" She leaned her head on his arm. "Dad." Jake didn't say a word. He just nodded and held her close. Weeks passed. The village changed. Slowly. The home for the forgotten was built. Broken children were brought in, some from nearby towns. Kids who had no one. But now, they had each other. And they had Lena. She became their voice, their strength, their hope. One night, as the stars shimmered above and soft winds danced over the sand, Lena stood on the hilltop, fully upright, no hands, no cane. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Dad." Behind her, the wind carried a soft reply. "You were never broken. You just needed someone to believe. From dust and pain, from silence and fear." She rose, and she never crawled again. The end.